Ah! Title card, credits, baby, we did it. Okay, let's see here. First things first, the bottom center of the screen says that we've beaten 35 games in 2024, 34 games in 2024, and 481 since we started doing this in 2020. Nope, not anymore. We've now beaten 35 games in 2024 and 482 since we started doing this in 2020. All right, so let's talk about Withering Rooms. Yes, so there are some great things about this game. First and probably foremost, it is entirely unique. I have never played a game like this. I've never seen a game that works like this. It's not that it has all of it's not that it's completely unique, like something like Outer Wilds. It's more that it takes pieces from so many different genres and puts them together in a way that I've never seen before. This game is it definitely has roguelite elements, but I'm not sure I would call it a roguelike. And I understand now in their marketing why they didn't. It's not really a roguelike. It's got some, I guess it's kind of a rogue extra light, because when you die, you do lose all your items and you have to start over at a certain point. But you're unlocking points as you go. You're unlocking all kinds of fast travel options. So if you're like really hardcore into roguelikes, I'm not necessarily sure I would recommend this to you. But it does a really interesting job of taking that premise, putting it in a procedurally generated series of maps. A lot of maps. The game is very large, by the way. Much larger than you think at first. And then putting it all in this package of this 2.5D, like dungeon crawly type mansion exploration with light puzzles, very light puzzles, and the resource management isn't really like a survival horror. It's really more like a roguelike, because it's a lot of your stuff is like use it or lose it. But anyway, the package is very unique. It's all very interesting. The story is very interesting, although, you know, it's not the best I've ever seen, but it is interesting. It's a very macabre, if whimsical kind of a tale. You know, it's all very tongue in cheek, but it's very dark in this very strange way. And the way that the graphics and like the visual style works in a way that I've never really seen before. It looks like, on its face, it looks kind of bad. It looks like it's got kind of a PS3 sheen to it, or maybe more appropriately, like a cheap Steam game that somebody threw some assets together, like an asset flip kind of look to it. It's definitely got that look to it. It doesn't look good, but there's something about it that actually is kind of appealing, the way that it looks. The fact, because it's kind of a 2D kind of a game, but it's got all these 3D assets in it, it's got some charm to it. So there are some things about roguelikes that I like that were here that I enjoyed quite a bit, like finding, you know, gear and upgrading things, doing a lot of permanent upgrading and leveling so that I'm stronger next time and yada yada. That's all good. I think that's all I can think of for good things. Let's talk about the problems. And let's talk about one problem in particular. The combat in this game is horrible. It's not hard. It's not that it's hard. It's not that it's even necessarily like broken. It's just bad. And the reason that it's bad is that there isn't, as far as I can tell, there is no way to play this game safely. You cannot avoid damage. You can't. You can't avoid taking damage. If you're like in a roguelike especially, it is so, anyone that's played any roguelikes knows how important it is. Your health bar is so incredibly important. Like, you get hit once and it's like, oh man, that's going to ruin the whole run. You know, and that feeling happens when you get hit in this game. The problem is that you can't really avoid it. As the game goes on, you can find shields that block most of damage, but they're not worth using because you can't use your weapons while you're blocking, and you need to be doing damage. And so the only way to do damage is to get in these enemies' faces and start swinging. And the only... there's a couple of projectiles or whatever, but either way, they've got projectiles too. You know, there's not really any way to avoid damage other than to run. That is the only real way that you can mostly avoid damage. It's not perfect, but you can avoid most of damage if you run. The problem is that you need items, consumable items, in order to be able to withstand a boss. Because the way that the fights happen in this game, you go in, let's say you go in and you just started your run, so you don't have any items, you don't have any healing items, you've just got let's say there's a way you can save your weapon, so let's say you have a good weapon, but you don't have any consumables. You are not going to win that boss fight. You cannot do it. You are going to get hit a lot, and they do a lot of damage, and you're going to die if you don't have a lot of healing items. So the only way to really get past that boss fight, it's not to level up, it's not to get better at the game, it's not to learn their moveset. None of that shit matters. All that matters is how much healing you have in your inventory. Because you are swinging your weapon and eating healing, and that's really the only way to fight in this game. That's the only way to do it that I've figured out. There is no build in this game that keeps you safe. There is no way to parry. There is no way to you have a dodge, but it does not have iframes. So you're getting hit anyway. So if an enemy swings at you, you can't roll through it. You cannot avoid damage. There's an item that gives you iframes, but it also damages you in a different way. So you cannot avoid damage. It's impossible. So the only way to really beat anything in this game is to tank it. You just have to hope that you can out damage it. And the only way to do that is you can find different ways to increase your damage, get bleed damage, poison damage, increase your DPS. You can do that, but you also need to have a certain amount. You can increase your health bar to a degree, but you also need not much, because the later bosses, they'll just hit you for 75% of your health in one hit. So, and there's not really any way to avoid it. So you just got to pop healing the whole time. And that's not that fun. The combat, in fact, it's not fun at all. The combat is the worst part of this game. It is objectively bad. The combat is just bad. It's not tough but fair. It's not even broken. It's just like the way that it's designed just isn't satisfying to me at all. Maybe calling it objectively bad is going a little bit far, but by any standard I've ever seen in any other game, there should be a way to, if you're really good at the game, if you're a master at the game, you should be able to do a no damage run. There's no fucking way you could do a no damage run in this game. There's no fucking way. I would not believe that it's possible. It just doesn't, unless there's some large aspect of the game that I'm not understanding, like there's some parry that they never told me about, or I wasn't listening or something, which I don't think so. I looked into it. There's just no way to do it. So the only way I was able to beat the bosses, especially after the halfway point, was just if I died in a run, I couldn't go fight that boss again. I had to go around, even though I had immediate access to them. I had to go around and get 10, 12, 15 healing items from the mansion, and then I could go. And then just fucking tank them, and it just wasn't fun. I hated the combat. I hated it. Especially in a roguelike where health is so precious and you die and you got to start a bunch of stuff over. It's not full roguelike. There's not that much really that you have to start over, but you lose all of your inventory. And that is incredibly important. That's what's really important. It's not like you have to start the map over or anything. You've got a lot of fast travel options. You really don't have to do that. But what is so crushing about dying in this game is losing your inventory, because you've got to go and farm it all again before you can fight anything. And on the way, by the way, you're going to run through 20 different enemies that can hit you for 30% of your health bar every time they touch you. And there's no way to block it or roll through it. And so, you better just hit them quickly, and then you can pick up maybe a couple healing items from them. It's a grueling style of combat. It is rough. I hated it. Honestly, that's really the only problem with this game that I can see. If the combat in this game was good, in how I would define that would be that if you were really good at it, you could master it and you could own the enemies. If you were really good, I'm not even saying I would get that good, but if that were the case, that the combat, like if there was a parry mechanic, for instance, or if there was a way that you could actually get iframes and roll through enemies, or if there was a way that you could block or something, or if there was a way that you could do more damage, without immediately being susceptible to it, then this game would be amazing, probably. I think that's the only really big problem with it. The problem is it's a huge fucking problem. It's a huge problem. So I just hated the combat. I hated it. The puzzles were really light. They were very easy. That was fine, whatever. I really did enjoy... I'll wrap it up with this. I really did enjoy the blend of roguelike that this is. Blending roguelike with horror, with kind of almost like a Metroidvania kind of a thing at times, with, standard 2D platforming, and so, it's not really platforming, but 2D side-scrolling combat and all that stuff. It was very interesting. I just wish they had made the combat system needs to completely be gutted in order. It's inherently just completely bad, in my opinion. But I did enjoy this game at parts. I was on edge the whole time because it's so easy to die, and it's so easy to... literally, I'd be in a hallway, some regular enemy that I've killed 10 times before, and they would just get the drop on me, and suddenly I've blown through 8 of my 10 healing items, and it's like, well, shit. Okay, that just added half an hour to the time that I've got to get more stuff before I can fight this boss again. It's just demoralizing. So anyway, I did enjoy the game. I tend to rant the most about games that are good except for like a fatal flaw. And I think this game has a fatal flaw that keeps it from really being good. I don't think I would call this a good game. Because that one flaw in it is so fatal that it drags the whole experience down. It keeps it from really being satisfying to a high degree. Now, I maybe I'm bad. Maybe there's something I don't understand about the combat. That's all possible. But barring any of that, I think the combat in this game is really bad, and that drags the whole experience down for me. Anyway, whatever. We got through it. That's it. Last order of business. It's been fun, Withering Rooms. Thank you for allowing us to play you. But we are now going to delete you from our console. Oh, wait, that's the wrong button. You'd think I'd never done this before. We are now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. Bye! Bye!